Call to order this meeting of the Warren County School Board for Thursday, December the 11th, 2014. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. And if you could, keep the Boyles family in your thoughts. Roy Boyles, our board member, lost his mother this week. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is to accept or modify the agenda. I would like to strike number 3 from the action agenda under presentations by staff, and we are going to postpone that to the January meeting. Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept the modified agenda.
Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries. Community participation. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Public presentation, Warren County Educational Endowment, Mary Ann Biggs.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ann Biggs, and I'm here tonight representing the Warren County Educational Endowment Grant Committee, and I'm joined by fellow board member Dr. Charles Huber. The Warren County Educational Endowment is committed to our mission of helping the local school system support high-level and creative programs for our children. This year, the Warren County Educational Endowment is awarding 10 grants totaling $37,650. And this is what we've chosen to support. We've chosen to support a program at AS Rhodes that helps parents teach their children to be responsible and respectful. Another grant that we are giving is to a program called Second Story, and it provides reading material, books for children who are from low-income families. A program at Hilda Barber and Skyline to improve student skills in language and mathematics. At Warren County High School, we support a grant to provide a 3D printer and a scanner and some software to the Visual Arts Department. We help fund some similar equipment at the Blue Ridge Technical Center, but we were pretty excited to have this be a support for the arts. At the middle school, we're supporting $9,000 for 2 grants to create literacy stations in classrooms. And finally, at Blue Ridge Technical Center, we're providing a $4,500 grant to provide a blood pressure simulator and a handheld Doppler for the nursing assistant program, and $13,000 to help implement the 4th year class in the biomedical science segment of Project Lead the Way. And just as an aside, about a month and a half ago, Dr. Huber and I went to visit that program, and we're just amazed at what those 17-year-old kids are doing that a lot of people don't do till they're in graduate school. So we were just terribly excited about that. We are very proud of the grants and extremely proud of the programs. So on behalf of the Warren County Educational Endowment, I would like to present this check that I just ripped out of my checkbook for $37,650 to the superintendent and the chairman of the board.
Thank you.
Go get the money.
I know this is a photo op. Well, you're better at this than I am.
They'll make sure that somebody makes sure Melanie's taking pictures too. And not
Okay.
Madam Chairman, as always, we thank the Endowment for all the things that they do for us, and since 1994, when the Endowment was started, they've certainly supported Warren County Public Schools and continue to do so. And the focus of the Endowment has changed somewhat from the very beginning, because in the beginning, I think the Endowment's intention was to certainly help us get to a place where we were a good school system. Now they are supporting many things that our mission and our goals, and that's all the grants. One of the stipulations for all the grants is that the things that are done are part of what Warren County Public Schools is all about, and not just separate and different from anything else. Also, you may recall that during American Education Week, the Warren County Education Association made a request of me to allow teachers and others, anybody in the system, to wear blue jeans for the week if they paid $5 to do it. And I said that would be fine. And our office were avid participators. I think we raised $80. But also, the Warren County Education Association wanted to use that money to donate to the Warren County Educational Endowment. And so Kim Oakland, who is the president of the association, is here tonight, and she'd like to present a check to Mrs. Biggs on behalf of the teachers and others.
Yes, and mine's not as big as yours, both figuratively and literally.
But yours is actually a real one.
Yeah, mine are real checks.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and actually there's several checks in here, but they are totaling $1,304.
Oh, wow.
And I was speaking with Superintendent McGinnis earlier, and I said, I think that we ought to make this an annual event for American Education Week.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Anyway, thank you very much, and thank you for supporting our school system.
You got to wear blue jeans and we got money. It's a win-win.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you all for what you do for our school systems. Consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept or approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, aye? Aye. Motion carries. Reports. Staff report, instruction report. Mr. Drescher.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Nice to see you again. In the past 10 years, you may have heard the term RTI, or Response to Intervention. RTI was conceived originally as a way to reduce the number of students needing special education services. And it was soon realized that the practices of RTI are appropriate for all students, and that implementing them not only benefits students with very difficult learning issues and behaviors, but all learners. In 2007, the Virginia Department of Education issued their first guidance on response to intervention, or RTI. And the idea, in very basic terms, is to organize a school's resources in such a manner that issues with student learning and behavior are identified quickly and addressed so that students can be successful in the regular classroom to the greatest extent possible. Sounds very simple. Many things that are simple are not. For a variety of reasons, implementing RTI in high schools has been challenging. In fact, until recently, and very recently, there was very little guidance on what to follow, what to do, how to organize, and how to implement at the high school level. Well, I'm very pleased to say that Warren County High School administrative staff has led their school in the creation of RTI practices. While it is a work in progress, assistant principals Rob Remmel and Bobby Johnson, with the moral support of their principal Ernestine Jordan and Dean Randa Vernazza, are here tonight to talk with us about what they've done to date in RTI. And I'd like to present them. They're welcome to come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Drescher, and of course thank we thank the board and Ms. McGinnis for inviting us here this evening. As Mr. Drescher said, the purpose of our RTI program is to look to ensure that all students have access to high-quality education that promotes career and college readiness, and that struggling students are identified and supported early and effectively. When we looked at this model, we looked at how can we implement this on a high school level, and we identified that through our leadership model and our scheduling efforts. Through our leadership teams, we have 3 leadership teams at our high school, including a leadership council. Those 3 leadership teams are our professional development team and curriculum and instruction, as well as safe and orderly. Thank you. And so we identified the need to create a rigorous schedule for our students and determined that a schedule change was the best measure for that. And with that schedule change, it allowed us to create, at the end of our day, an enrichment and intervention period, which is a period of time where students are scheduled in with teachers for intervention purposes or enrichment purposes. The teachers are set up in pairs to allow for easier management, and those teacher pairs alternate on AB days. And on days that students, they don't have a full class of students, they're able to present lessons, they're able to work one-on-one with students, and at this point it's been interesting and good to see what's been taking place there.
Yes, and Mr. Johnson had mentioned the schedule. You all are aware of the increased rigor of the SOLs, and the same thing that stayed the same for years is the time of day that we've been in the school building. So students are expected to learn more at a deeper level, and the time of day stays the same. So the schedule and the leadership team has really taken a look at this and feels that there is a need, that we needed to change that schedule around to offer students a little bit more time to look at things and process things and have that time to have some support. So the schedule really was the driving force of this RTI that we'll talk a little bit about today. But the schedule really, at first, was built just to offer kids more time to process information at a deeper level. As we looked at things and the leadership teams processed things, we said, hey, we have this time in the day, and we've been to conferences in the summer, and RTI has been around for a while. Some people call it the multi-tiered intervention system of supports. We looked at what we had to offer and what we've been doing for a long time. I've been at Warren County High School, this is my 5th year, and we've been doing great things. We've been doing a lot of the things that fit into this nice little package that they call RTI. So with the schedule change and looking at what research we've seen on RTI and the needs of our students, it all started to come together. And that's kind of where we are right now with our RTI plan. You have the clicker. If you're not familiar with RTI, you can kind of look at this pyramid, and most of our students, probably 85% of our students, are down at the Tier 1. Those are students who function fine during the day with the supports that everybody gets. It's the everyday classroom, it's your inclusion classes with special education teachers and content teachers, co-teaching, differentiation, all that stuff that all kids get. Now, every once in a while, we find that students aren't being successful at that level, either behaviorally or academically, and the way we do that is we look at some universal screenings, discipline data, attendance data, benchmark data, SOL scores, things like that all kids are taking during the course of the year. And as we look at that data, sometimes there's a red flag that pops up, or maybe more than one red flag. And at that time, those students are identified, and we move quickly with a team of teachers and figure out what we need to give that person. We were talking about this the other day, and we kind of mentioned that it's prescriptive. If you're sick, you go to the doctor, he prescribes something, and you go on that antibiotic or whatever that may be, and then you get better, and you're back in the swing of things. And that's kind of the theory between this whole pyramid and the RTI, the response to intervention, is responding to students' needs quickly and timely to provide them a free and appropriate education that's in the least restrictive environment. Some of the universal supports that we are using in Tier 1 have been graciously supported and supplied to us through the budget and things like that. You want to talk a little bit about those?
Of course, Vsba is one of those supports that have been provided from central office and the school board. Vsba is a universal screener for that we've in the past. It's been for reading. This year we did offer math. Vsba screening. Every student is screened across the board. K-8 in our building, of course, it's 8th grade, and we provide those benchmarks to students 3 times a year, once in the fall and once in the winter. Students are then, that data is analyzed, and students showing a deficit in math, for example, would be either shifted up to Tier 2, which Mr. Room will talk more about here in just a little bit, or maybe even up to Tier 3, depending on that deficit.
Yeah. And you might wonder, what does Tier 1 look like? It's the student who's functioning in class, getting good grades, doing what they need to do, might need a little bit of help. With that schedule, that student can go on his or her own to the teacher, that 5th period, get that little support that he or she may need, some clarification, and then take that information back and process it on their own. When we move to Tier 2, and some of those universal supports or universal screenings and tests and things like that kind of throw up those red flags, the Tier 2 kids need a little bit more guidance, a little bit more structured support. So when you move to Tier 2, you're not in Tier 2 for life. Tier 2 is a little bit more concentrated support that we've noticed that you may need. And a lot of that is due, with large part of the schedule, a more scheduled type of remediation or support. As Mr. Johnson mentioned in the introduction, some of those students can go back to the teacher for a longer period of time, or we can schedule students into that intervention for a longer period of time, and it's a little bit more targeted and provides a little bit more extra support at that time.
And I might add as an example, we just came off of a benchmark period here in previous weeks. A student that shows a deficit in one target area of a standard can take that to the teacher during the intervention period and say, hey, I need some one-on-one assistance. Or it might be a group of students that are showing or struggling in that area. That teacher can work in that small environment with those students to move them up to where they need to go, and then they're right back into the classroom the next day, learning at the same level that everybody else is. During these intervention periods, we could see one-on-one, we could see one-on-5. Sometimes I walk past a room and I see a mini lesson going on where the teacher is engaging 15 or 20 students in a lesson that is supportive of all those students in that class.
And like Mr. Johnson said, once you are identified in having to, in reaching the Tier 2, you are not there for life. You may go there for a couple weeks for a more targeted intervention with that teacher and bop right back down to Tier 1. In some cases, we decide that you need a little bit more intensive interventions with Tier 3, and that's probably the 5% of the students in our school who may need that targeted supports. And with that new schedule that we have, it's allowed us to free up some time during the day where we can have some more scheduled targeted interventions. Like, for example, we have some new courses that were approved this year for students who were struggling coming from the middle school and had not had success on some of the SOLs and things like that. So Mr. Johnson in the scheduling has actually scheduled those students into a little bit more targeted interventions where it's monitored more on a standards base. We really look at what standards and dig down and drill down deep into that data that the student has provided through his testing and data that he has or she has provided with testing, and those teachers really go back and prepare those kids to pass those SOLs or give them the supports that they need. And that's just academic. Like I said, the tiered system here is set up also to help with some of the behaviors. Some of our students need some more intensive support with behavior, so we have some classes that we can target those kids into and schedule those kids into, similar to a non-traditional program that teaches them the behavior management skills that they may need to be successful in the classroom.
Of course, some of those classes that Mr. Rimmel had talked about or spoke about included our 21st century math class. That was set up specifically for our 8th graders. The 3 pieces of data that we used to pull in those students included past SOL scores from 7th grade, our Ames Web and our Ames Web testing that we did this school year. And then the students that were the lowest on the Ames Web testing, and we correlated their scores on the SOL, were then put into there along with conversations with their teachers, along with conversations with their parents, and along with conversations with the students themselves. So, and that is on an A-Day, B-Day schedule that they see. The teacher sees them every other day. We also have another course, it's called Communications 9 and Communications 10, that targets our 9th graders, of course, and our 10th graders. We used Ames Web data on that as well for our reading, and we also used past SOL scores, specifically the 8th grade SOL scores, to target those students to see who needed to go in there. Mr. Rimmel also talked about discipline. We do have a choices program that is made where students are made aware of their behavior through a behavior modification program that's very similar to what Brighter Futures uses, and it was actually modeled after the Brighter Futures program. And it's set up on a tiered system where students earn points for their behavior, but in addition to behavior, they're also given study skills. They're able to work on our online APEX program, so if they show they're struggling maybe in English or in math, we put them on tutorials in those programs to help raise them up to the level that they need to be.
And just to kind of remind everybody, the schedule really is what has allowed us to kind of put all this together, or has opened our eyes to be able to put all this together and help serve children in a timely manner and respond to their needs quickly and give them what they need. And it's done through the leadership model. This is something that we've been doing for a while, and now it just seems like it's falling into place and in a nice, I don't want to say package, but it is falling into place quite nicely, and it's allowing us a little bit more structure and a little bit more opportunity to monitor data and to see where we're going with things, and to have that proof with the data to show that, hey, what we're doing and how we're structuring things and meeting the needs of the kids in a timely manner is working. And we've been working on this and moving in this direction for about a year, and we have some preliminary data that Mr. Johnson will share with you. We're still anxious to see how things progress and see if that data begins to show some patterns and things like that. And then I think at that point we can really say we really have something. I mean, I think all of us at Warren County believe that it's successful. I think our parents and people who come into the schools and meet with us during the meetings for these students as they move from level to level and receive their supports are appreciative of all the efforts that are going on. But I think, like I said, the more data that comes up as we move on here into our second and third years, I think is really going to prove what we're doing is paying dividends. So the year one results Mr. Johnson can share.
We targeted primarily math last year. That was where we, as a school, thought that this would be most beneficial. We saw an increase in math scores to 9% on the accreditation, state accreditation numbers. With regard to our discipline numbers and parent contacts and things like that, we saw a decrease in 33% of our write-ups. We went from it was about a drop in about 400 write-ups that we saw over the course of the year. And of course, parent contact logged were increased 85%. So our teachers were also making a lot more contact with parents as well. And on our teacher survey, we give a teacher survey at the end of every school year to gauge where our teachers believe we are in the building. And before we changed our schedule to the intervention and enrichment period, our teachers ranked our advisory period, which was our intervention and enrichment period before the schedule change, at about a 4.6 in terms of a problem, which is number one in problems in the building. And after we changed the schedule, it dropped to the very bottom, and it was at about a 2.6 or 2.16. So the teachers even thought that this was a good schedule change.
And I think that, lastly, I think that's really what is making this a success, is we have a school that has a vision of shared leadership, and we have more buy-in than not, in the school with what we're doing with regard to RTI and the PBIS and the behavior education plans that you may hear about, in the news and things like that. But I think a lot of that is attributed to the shared leadership and the buy-in of the teachers and the staff and administration at the school. So, like I said, hopefully year two our numbers get better and we can report back and have a more definitive, defined model of what we're doing. But we do appreciate you having us tonight. And Mr. Johnson, do you have anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, so if there's any questions, we'll field those.
This is your first year? So you started in August
We
or
started
last year?
Last year.
Last year,
Yes.
okay.
Roughly last year, yeah.
Okay.
So we've been doing it for about a year and a half.
So SOL scores and discipline scores and things that come out at the end of this year will be our year two data.
Okay.
And this data is tracked monthly. Discipline data is tracked monthly. We track, of course, students that are in these programs are tracked monthly as well. We pull grades. We speak with teachers. We speak with parents regularly.
Do the students stay in the program the whole year, or they can go into an enrichment class if they don't need to continue in this?
Yeah, that's a great question. For example, like the students that are in the 21st century math skills are reevaluated after 9 weeks. And so if they show that they've made significant improvement, they get to move out of that and they can go into an elective, maybe Art 8 or something like that. Students that are shown to be still struggling but still making progress, we continue on with that program. Students that are not showing any results whatsoever, we look at other alternatives to help them. We may schedule them every day with their math teacher in their 5th period class for one-on-one support.
And Mr. Drescher said that early on this model was created to try to find different ways to have students succeed before we got to the referral process for special education. I mean, it's quite possible that if a student's not is successful in one of the tiers or some of the interventions that we have, it's quite possible that we need to move towards a child study and go that route because maybe those students need some more intensive interventions or accommodations or something of that nature.
Well, I think you're to be commended because many times programs like RTI are differentiating instruction. They're said, oh, don't even try it at the high school level. It's always elementary, K to 8, where you can have the most impact. But what you're doing is very impressive, and I think people have a stereotype of assistant principals, oh, they're disciplinarians, but you're not. I mean, you're heavily involved in the academics, and I think the scheduling was wonderful, but you're also relying on data. You're not just saying, okay, this is an extra help period. Go to your math, it's just very, very impressive what you're doing. But it's called intervention and enrichment, right? So are you or do you envision during that period, taking some gifted students and taking them even higher. I mean, that's enrichment as well. It's not just for the students who are performing below the acceptable level. You know, I'm just thinking, can we do something for our gifted students to challenge them further?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, a lot of times our club meetings are there, SGA is there. A lot of times there's times for students to collaborate based on those. We have drama that runs during that time as well. Students that will have online classes running during that time, and that is current.
And it does allow, the fifth period does allow us some flexible scheduling. If there's a student who wants to get ahead, that person could take a singleton at the end of the day, because it is a 45-minute block. And with the e-learning and the virtual classes, a student could hypothetically be placed into those classes and extend their learning. Last year, for example, a great example was we had a number of students who took part in one of our math labs with our other students who needed some additional help, some of the 8th grade students. So some of the seniors who could have had early out or work study and been at home doing their things at home took it upon themselves. And I think it was a group probably of 10 or so students. They stayed and helped the teacher and helped the students with some of those algebra basic skills. So, and these were kids who wanted to be teachers and things like that, or enjoyed working with students with disabilities. And we still, at this time, even currently, have a number of students who, during that fifth period, are enriching their curriculum by working with our SKIP program, which is our students. Our program for students with autism and things like that. So there are people and kids out there getting those little enrichment activities, and our teachers do a great job of trying to work with those students and bringing those students back who want to try to enrich their education and get those real life experiences, I think.
Newspaper also uses that, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Newspaper also uses that time to do more with ads and things like that for the newspaper.
No, I also think, I think certainly the focus initially had to be with those children, those students that needed those extra supports to be successful in school. I think there will continue to be opportunities for kids that are working at those higher levels, whether they are able to do more independent study projects and those kinds of things. This is a time they could be working on that. And again, it's all about how all the staff can support, and people have different, there's different expertise in a lot of, with our faculty and staff. And again, I think it's important to realize that these aren't just teachers that are helping, that these are our instructional assistants and other staff members that are working with these students as well. So it's a commendable whole school process to address the whole student.
Right.
And I believe you'll see increased results. I think one of the things that the increased academic scores will continue because of your decreased discipline issues. And it's great to see, you all paying attention to getting kids at a place where they are behaviorally ready to learn and learn at higher levels, and that they know, and they're finding out from these meetings that you have and these classes that you have, that they are capable of doing that as well. I think this is, and probably in a lot of cases with some of these kids, this is the first time they probably felt paid attention to in a positive way, to allow them to know how smart they are and that they are capable of meeting those academic challenges that we are asking them to do. So I think it has this process, and what Warren County High School is doing is certainly paying attention to the individual student. And I think we've talked for years about the No Child Left Behind data and all that kind of stuff, and supposedly it's focused on the individual child. But this is the kind of stuff that really focuses on the individual child. and identifying the needs. I think one of the most remarkable things in all of this is that the increased parent contacts with between teachers and staff and the parents. And these are contacts that are not negative contacts, I'm sure, for the most part. They're positive contacts, and just allowing parents to know that you all care about their kids, because that's one of the things that we all hear, that you don't care about my kid, and that's not true. And these things prove that teachers and other staff members and administration are making contacts. I see it in Power School when I need to do discipline referrals at this level. The number of contacts that have been made with parents and with students is tremendous. I mean, there are long lists of contacts that have been made to try to work with students and before they come to my level. And, I really appreciate all that you're doing, and we'll just have you teach everybody else to do it.
There you go. Yeah, pilot program.
Extremely impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we look forward to hearing an update next year, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent report.
I don't want to follow that. What I'm going to report on is not nearly as interesting as what you just heard. But I do want to say that on December 1st, Mrs. Bauer, Mrs. Shepherd, and I attended the Town Council work session, and it was the purpose of the work session. One of the items on their agenda was the zoning for the new middle school, and so they had a conversation about that, and it's my understanding that the Town Council will actually take action on the zoning for the new Warren County, or no, the new middle school for Warren County. How's that? Instead of the new Warren County Middle School. We've already been there and done that. So we should have that process completed in January, so everything can be moved forward, and we can send things that send it out to bid and that kind of thing. Also, I just want to inform you that we closed on the sale of the bonds on December the 8th. Everything went through. Everything was fine. I certainly appreciate all the work that both county and Warren County Public Schools staff did to put all that bond information together, and Dan Siegel, who is the bond attorney from Sands Anderson, and Ted Cole from Davenport, which is the financial piece of that the county uses. And so all that is done, and the money's in the bank, basically. Also, last week, for 3 days, we had someone from the Department of Education that visited us from the Food Service Department, and it was Warren County's turn to have a federal food service audit. So she spent 3 days here looking through a lot of paperwork and reports and making sure that we were doing everything that we were supposed to do to meet the federal guidelines for free and reduced lunch and those kinds of things. And the audit went very well. We are not receiving any citations on anything. There were a few comments, and we'll get a final report, but a few comments that kind of like technical assistance comments. But I certainly appreciate Mrs. Shepherd was part of that. She's learned lots of new things in the last 2 years, and continues to do that. And certainly thank Sue Ann Fox and Sodexo for doing their part and making sure that our school system is doing what it's supposed to do, and we thank them for that. And the only other thing I have is I hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday. I think even though we got a free day this week.
Tuesday.
Was it Tuesday? Shoot. I knew it was a day. But I think people are ready for a little break, and have been working very hard, and so everybody have a happy holiday. Thank you.
School board reports. Mrs. Shrefko?
Well, I just wanted to remind the public that if they go to our school website, which is www.wcps.k12.va.us, and look on the left-hand side, under Superintendent Search, they will find an online survey. And we welcome all residents of Warren County to go onto our website and provide us with some input regarding the characteristics and skills that you individually believe that our next superintendent should possess. That online survey will be active only through December 17th. So please go on and respond to the questions. Dr. David Martin from Real Synergy and I spoke yesterday, and he is going to provide us early next week prior to our December 18th meeting with data acquired from the 65-plus interviews, the December 4th public meeting, and possibly the online survey as of a certain date. And yesterday there were 106 responses to the online survey, which is pretty good. They are also hoping to send us a draft application form and a draft profile so that we can read all of those documents prior to our December 18th meeting, which is at 4 p.m.
Also, our calling system called everybody at 6:30 today to remind them again that the survey was available.
Okay.
Was that the second call?
Yeah, and that should be it. We don't want to
Nothing crazy.
dry them, yeah.
Okay. Is that it? Mr. Wells?
Nothing other than to wish everybody a happy Christmas and holiday season.
Thank you. Mr. Rosen?
No, nothing. Still learning.
Okay.
Very enjoyable the presentation we just saw. Is pretty interesting. Pretty interesting to me. And gentlemen have done a great job, and it targets students that need help.
Absolutely.
It appeared to me, and that's the whole purpose. And I wish everybody a happy holiday season.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we do enjoy those instructional reports, so keep those up. And anything that I would have to report on has already been mentioned, so I won't continue with that. I think Mrs. Shrefko wanted to make another statement.
I just think that we all thank the Educational Endowment so much for their support. They do, wonderful things that go above and beyond the regular curriculum, and to thank the teachers, the Warren County Education Association and all the people who donated that money. That was a generous check to the endowment. So we just appreciate both groups so much.
Echo that.
What's that?
I said
Do
I
you
echo
second
that.
Okay, thank you. Action agenda. Presentations by staff. First reading of 2015-16 Program of Studies. Mr. Drescher.
Annually, Warren County Public Schools updates and then produces a program of studies that outlines all of the course offerings for grades 6 through 12. The program of studies also outlines numerous instruction programs and guidelines that affect students. There were 2 courses being added this year. AP Studio Art was added last year to follow regular art offerings at Skyline High School. We discovered that this course can also be used as an AP course to follow photography. So we are also looking to do that as well. So students that have been successful through Photography 3 can take AP Studio Art. So we'll have more students in AP doing that. Biomedical Innovation 8382 is the final course in the biomedical Project Lead the Way. And we look forward to implementing that as well. And as we already had mentioned this evening, the support that we have for that. So there were only 2 courses this year. There were a lot of edits, as we often have. Our guidance directors at both high schools spend an awful lot of time looking at this document and making corrections throughout the year. And there were a lot of small things in there that if you looked page by page and compared it with last year, you may notice. But overall, it's the same document as last year with the 2 new courses that you see. So this is a first reading. We're prepared to accept the motion this evening if you want to do that, but if you would like time to look at that and have me respond to any questions, I'll be glad to do that, and we can do that at the January meeting as well. So either way works. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think we're going to be waiting until January, or
Yeah.
So we have a chance to look this
Sure,
over?
absolutely. Yeah.
see if we have any questions.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Mr. Drescher?
Not yet.
Okay, thank you. Approval of 2015-2016 school calendar, Mrs. Shepherd.
Good evening. This is the third reading of the 2015-2016 school calendar. Before you are two proposed calendars. Both of these calendars meet policy ICID. The key information on the calendars are as such. Proposed calendar A, school will start on Monday, August the 17th, 2015. The end of the first semester will be Tuesday, December 22nd, 2015. The last day of school will be Thursday, June the 2nd, 2016. There are 13 professional days, and the calendar includes two extra built-in days and 3 weather makeup days. Proposed calendar B, school would start on Monday, August the 24th, 2015. The end of the first semester would be Friday, January the 15th, 2016. The last day of school was Thursday, June 9th, 2016. Again, there are 13 professional days, 2 days built into the calendar, and then 3 weather makeup days. I'm happy to try to answer any of your questions you may have.
I think we basically discussed most of them the last time. Our main concern was finishing up the semester before the Christmas break, and we were assured that this was going to happen for the next few years at least.
Yes, at least the next 2.
Okay.
I think the last time that we talked about the calendar and trying to be consistent, and we did a survey, we did not have as an option that we would finish the high school semester before the holiday break. And I think had that been on the table, the survey results might have been different. Trying to respect all stakeholders and their opinions when we make our decisions, but basically we're here to do what's best for kids. Mm-hmm. And there are 2 reasons why I'm going to support the August 17th date. High schoolers, I don't really want them to spend their holiday break studying for exams or doing final term papers or projects or anything like that, because that's how I spent my 4 years in college, and it's horrible. And the second thing is, if we move toward the 17th, the students who attend Mountain Vista Governor's School will have, as close a schedule as Mountain Vista will have. As it is now, where, our students are at school here and there's no Mountain Vista, or they're not at school here and they have to get to Mountain Vista. So if I'm going to place students first above all other groups, then I have to go with the August 17th date.
I agree. And also, it coincides more with the surrounding counties, doesn't it?
It does.
Mrs. Sharefko was absolutely right in that what we really need to look at in this calendar is what's in the best interest of our students. That's what we've talked about. That's what we talk about all the time, is we try to make decisions in what's in the best interest of students. And although our elementary students and our middle school students are not taking semester courses, our high school students are, and I do think it's important that they be able to finish their course without a 2.5-week break in between. And because what happens when you come back after the holiday is you just kind of try to cram everything in to be able to finish those SOL tests and get all the projects done and that kind of thing by mid to late January. Actually, it's usually the week of the 20-something of January that it happens. And this is also when we start having weather. And so you have all those other interruptions, and it's just, I don't think it's in our students' best interest. And so my recommendation would be to do calendar A as well.
Any other discussion on it?
I support calendar A as well. understanding there's no great time to start and there's no great time to end. But because we are somewhat regional with things like the governor's school and other types of things, other regional schools have moved to an earlier calendar, and this lines us up with them somewhat. The only thing, and it's a big wish, but it's Christmas time, so what the heck, that I would ask is that we have Ressie Jeffries, which does not have great air conditioning, if at all, in certain places. If we could see if we can revisit some type of air conditioning, HVAC upgrade there with what funding we might be able to pull together. Maybe we could talk to the Board of Supervisors about at least the gymnasium, because Parks and Rec uses it as much as we do. Maybe we could go into partnership or something like that and upgrade that. But, that's, like I say, that's my Christmas wish, and not anything to do with the calendar, really.
Okay. We'll be in mid-August, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does have to do with the calendar.
It does.
It can be pretty hot there. Is there a motion?
I move the proposed 2015-2016 Calendar A be approved as presented, with the first day of school Monday, August 17th, 2015, and the last day of school Thursday, June 2nd, 2016.
Is there a second? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Shepherd.
And I would just ask Mr. Smith, if we can get it on the web site as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and parents also, because I know a lot of parents plan vacations early. And
We'll get it tomorrow, Monday at the latest.
okay, thank you. Approval of October 2014 VSBA policy updates. Mr. Ballantyne.
Good evening. In October of 2014, VSBA, whose policy services we subscribe to, submitted 16 policies for consideration by the Warren County School Board. A chart showing all the updated policies has been prepared by staff, noting the proposed changes. An additional 7 policies are presented for review, but have no recommended revisions. This is a part of a requirement to do a regular review of all policies. All revisions are recommended for approval as submitted by the VSBA, except for one, and this may be an important one because I think you'll probably be having to use it here in the next year or sooner, and that is policy FFA, which is the naming of school facilities. It is recommended in that policy that the word will be changed to may in the second sentence of the first paragraph, and that paragraph deals with seeking public input in the process of naming of a school facility. Furthermore, it's recommended that the second paragraph, the recommended paragraph, be deleted in its entirety. Removal of this paragraph is in keeping with a board decision made back in 2008 that does allow for facilities to be named for a living individual. So with the exception of that one policy, all the recommended changes are recommended, and that one modified slightly as presented here. These policies were presented back in, I think it was on November 13th as a first reading, and then discussed in our work session on November 25th, and are presented for you tonight for your consideration and possible approval. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have about any of the policies in particular, though.
I don't have any. No, I don't either. No. Is there a motion?
I would move that the 16 policies for consideration and 7 policies for review be accepted as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Presentations by superintendent.
I don't have anything.
Discussions by school board. Schedule the special meeting to finalize superintendent profile, application process, and posting of position.
Already been scheduled.
We talked about it, but I don't think we got it on the schedule for the 18th. Is that correct?
Well, tonight we have to approve it.
Yes.
And we can expect those documents to which I referred earlier prior to the meeting, so that we'll be,
Ready for that?
yeah, it'll be a more productive meeting if we review those in advance.
Will that be in the conference room down the school board? Okay. Okay, so do we need to make
So
a
we'll have
motion
to
on that?
advertise for that.
Yes, we will.
Okay, is there a motion?
Before you do that, my understanding is that more than likely that meeting will be part open session, part closed session, because there may be some things when one of the questions that is part of the survey is, do you know anybody that, to fill the job kind of thing, and those are not part of the public presentation, so there may be part of part of the meeting needs to be open, part of it closed.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I would move that a special meeting of the Warren County School Board be scheduled for Thursday, December 18th, 2014, at 4 p.m. at the school board administrative offices for the purpose of finalizing the new superintendent profile, application process, and posting of the position.
Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Consider adopting proposed VSBA resolution concerning the funding of public education in Virginia.
Well, I believe all of you received something from the VSBA, and VSBA has asked each school board in the state to adopt a resolution in support of the funding for public education in Virginia. And Rob sent you a copy of the request and the proposed resolution that was attached. It's also one of those, this same type of resolution is being asked by Vsba, which is the superintendent's group for the superintendent's group to do this as well. We'd be happy to try to answer any questions if you have them.
I think that therefore statement speaks for itself.
Yes.
I move that the resolution concerning the funding of public education in Virginia be adopted as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Potential topics for January 8th, 2015 regular meeting. There are quite a few of them there, so please take the time to review those. Anything you need to address, Mrs. McGinnis?
No, but usually it's the, it's the organizational meeting, the annual organizational meeting, and so a lot of those things are part of that that organization. I do believe that you did notice that you will be approving a 2015 school board meeting calendar, and you had some conversations about having the second
Work
meeting, the work session meeting to begin at 5 o'clock, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be reflected on the list for you to approve.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
December 16th, 17th, and 18th, webinar from 12:30 to 1:30. I believe that's next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Most of us plan on attending?
I'll be teaching
Okay.
2 of those days.
I know I plan on being there Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm not so sure about Thursday.
We've signed up for it, and it doesn't cost any different if you come for one or all of them, or if you can't get to any of them. So feel free to drop in for 1, 2, or all 3 of them if you're able.
And where will that be? Will it be
In our-
upstairs?
It'll
Probably
be in the downstairs, I believe, conference room. I've got to double check on that. It'll either be the upstairs or downstairs one of the two.
Okay.
We've reserved one. I can't remember which one now.
I think it's going to be an overflow crowd.
It's going to be an overflow
No,
crowd,
I
you
said I
say?
don't think it's going to be an overflow crowd.
Well, you never know. January 26th, 27th, 2015 VSBA Capital Conference in Enrichment. We had some information on those 3 conferences, so if anyone is interested in attending that or the orientation for new school board members and superintendents, or the new chairman and vice chairman, please let Mr. Valentine know. When do you have to register for those?
Room reservations are December 30th, but
Looks like January 6th for at least one of them, so the first week of January probably.
Okay.
if you need a room, the block of rooms only reserved through at December 30th, yeah.
I'll keep it.
Okay.
By the way, did you you did notice, I'm assuming that you that you saw in the daily VSBA announcements that Brenda Tanner, who some of you had as the superintendent's evaluation workshop you attended, is now going to, she's been the interim superintendent in Orange County and has said she will take it full-time. She's coming out of retirement to do it for 3.5 years. Bless her little heart.
Do we see that in your future?
Not today.
Is there any further business? Okay, we do need to go into closed session.
Yes.
This motion is made that this open public meeting of the Warren County School Board become a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711. The school board desires to discuss the following matters in a closed meeting. Section 2.2-3711A2, discussion or consideration of admission or disciplinary matters or any other matters that would involve the disclosure of information contained in a scholastic record concerning any student in Warren County Public Schools, specifically the request from one family for release from compulsory attendance pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.1-254.b and Section 2.2-3711A1, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of an employee of the school board. Be it resolved that the School Board of Warren County does hereby authorize discussion in closed meeting of the matters identified herein.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, please call roll.
Mr. Rosen?
Yes.
Mr. Wells? Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Mrs. Shirefko?
Yes.